Story 1. Life before penicillin and vaccines. Look into your family history and see all the babies and children who died. Story 2. Suffering. I think people confuse valuing resilience as a skill for enduring hardship with idolizing hardship as the source of resilience. Story 3. People see high-level achievements and focus on the results, often overlooking the process. Earned a Doctor of Philosophy degree, earned a Doctor of Medicine degree, won the World Cup, became president of a country, won a Nobel Prize or the Nobel Peace Prize. People respect these outcomes but are usually completely unaware of what it took to achieve them. That is normal. You generally earn proper respect only from people who have experienced some part of the same journey. That is okay. Story 4. Significant weight loss, both the journey and the result. Many people think that once you lose the weight, everything is sunshine and rainbows. That may be true for some, but it has not been true for me. I recently lost 85 pounds and I am still losing weight. It was extremely hard, and while I am glad I did it, the experience has been surreal and not in a good way. I am happy to look and feel much better and to have a wardrobe full of clothes that fit, but my mental health has suffered. My brain has not caught up with my body and I still see the larger version of myself in my mind's eye. When I catch an unintended reflection or see a photo someone else took, it can be destabilizing. I am also very unhappy with the loose skin. I expected it, but that does not make it easier to deal with. I lost the weight fairly quickly, which may contribute to the mind-body disconnection. It is bizarre to look in the mirror and see a stranger. The worst part for me is how people treat me differently. Strangers, yes, and I expected that, and I have become visible to random men again, which has been startling, but I did not expect friends and acquaintances to become much nicer to me. It is disorienting because I am the same person I have always been. As a result, I have become isolated. I do not want to be around people who only think I am worthy of respect now. I deserved that treatment when I was larger too. Story 5. Being a starving artist means you struggle to afford food because you are paid so little for your work, and it demands more than a full-time job. Story 6. There was a moment in Buffy that I always thought rang true. Buffy. It must have been wonderful to put on some fantabulous gown and go to a ball, like a princess, have servants and horses and more gowns. Willow, yeah. Still, I think I prefer being able to vote. I love history, but I'll take penicillin, voting rights, and much better odds of surviving childbirth. Story 7. Adulting. Everyone acts like it is freedom, but no one mentions the endless bills, stress, and zero naps. Story 8. I have a mental illness. I am diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, and seeing people post celebratory messages about creating a new altar is especially distressing to me. Forming a new altar was very difficult and made it hard for me to function for months until I could reintegrate. Story 9. The golden age of piracy featured scurvy sailors and rats. Story 10. When you work for a good cause, you are often overworked, underpaid, and have almost no chance of building savings or supporting a family without family wealth or a partner with a higher-paying job. Many non-governmental organizations rely on a steady stream of young, enthusiastic, cause-driven idealists whom they overwork until they burn out, then replace. Turnover is very high. Story 11. Any disability. Mental health is not quirky, or rather, it can lead to some quirks, but they are not fun to live with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Physical disability is not an extra personality trait, especially if it is relatively minor but still impacts a person's life in many ways. Story 12. Weddings, especially large ones, are the epitome of romance. Yet they are difficult to pull off, and much of the process can be unpleasant. You picture the venue, the dress, the decor. You do not picture getting blisters from folding hundreds of origami swans, dealing with the paperwork to obtain the marriage license, or the unexpected social and family drama that can arise. Story 13. One-sided love. I don't know about the whole world, but in South Asian culture, it is glorified so heavily that it cannot be described in words. Story 14. Women worked hard to romanticize working outside the home while raising children. Truth be told, it is the hardest juggling act when you cannot afford nannies and cannot afford to stop working. Most women do not have a choice about whether to work. Men used to earn more because they had to provide for the entire family. For example, in 1952, my father worked for minimum wage and was able to afford rent and food for a family of three. The cost of living compared to average wages today has pushed many women into a form of indentured servitude, complicating their responsibilities as spouses, homemakers, and parents. For the wealthiest 1%, this is not an issue, but for the majority of women raising children while working, stress is at an all-time high. Story 15. The grind and hustle culture. Yes, we could work 90-hour weeks across multiple jobs to scrape by for a few years to climb out of poverty in the hope of a better life. But is that really necessary? Is it virtuous? Can't we simply offer people a better standard of living and a living wage in this day and age? Story 16. Poverty. I don't know why some people who have never been poor themselves act as if there is some inherent virtue in being poor, when the truth is that being poor is neither a virtue nor a vice. It is an ongoing struggle that can take years to overcome. Story 17. Loving someone with terminal cancer is not the romantic John Green novel The Fault in Our Stars. It is a black hole that stretches you out like a noodle until their illness destroys you too. Story 18. Finding yourself again after a bad or abusive relationship can be difficult. Sometimes you do not even remember who you are or what you enjoy. It is extremely painful, and recovery can take a very long time. Story 19. Getting a higher education is great, but doing all the work and missing out on the fun because you must also work full-time to afford it is tough. Story 20. War or military service in general presents a paradox. If you are not in danger, you are probably bored. If you are in danger, you are not having fun. Story 21. Breastfeeding. When your baby is a newborn, you are expected to breastfeed every 2 hours, including during the night. Your body is constantly being used as a food source, and you may leak milk frequently. It is much harder than people describe. Story 22. Abusive, toxic relationships. Specifically, relationships in which a man is abusive and controlling, chokes his girlfriend, calls her a bitch or a whore, and tells her she is good for nothing, claiming this sexually arouses women. Story 23. Getting fit. In the age of social media, many videos show the highlight reel of someone's fitness journey, delicious-looking meals, and dramatic results. Getting fit is incredibly tough and often unpleasant. It requires tracking food, consistently preparing healthy meals, and doing various types of exercise to improve metabolic and cardiovascular health. You may feel hungry at times, avoid certain drinks, and deny yourself treats. So many people struggle because it doesn't feel pleasant. Story 24. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is often misrepresented. Television and movies make it seem like a quirky, silly need to organize or clean. It does sometimes manifest as being a neat freak, but the reality is an around-the-clock cycle of anxiety, compulsion, shame, and frustration. For example, someone might believe that if they do not compulsively organize a particular item, their family will die in a car crash. There are many different types of intrusive thoughts that create compulsive behaviors and rigid thought patterns. It is a debilitating mental illness, and I am tired of it being romanticized or written off as not that bad. Story 25. Working from home is often imagined as freedom, but it is mostly isolation and blurred boundaries. Story 26. As a tall, handsome man, people treat you as if you have not worked hard for anything. Men behave awkwardly around you, quietly hoping you will not flirt with their partner. If you are not wealthy and powerful, people assume you must have done something seriously wrong. Story 27. I have been in relationships where people trapped me by saying they loved me, insisting our relationship would be worthless if they did not fight tooth and nail to keep me around. If I say I am not happy, it is not romantic to ruin things further by holding me hostage. Story 28. Being hypermobile is not always a benefit. People often treat the ability to sit in unusual positions or to be double-jointed as a novelty, but depending on the degree of hypermobility, it can cause severe pain. Joints may give out or dislocate unpredictably. Pain and other symptoms often worsen with age and can lead to being wheelchair-bound. Hypermobility can also cause hands and fingers to dislocate or to function poorly. Everyday tasks, such as using a fork with a dislocated finger, can be very difficult. Story 29. Marriage is not a happy ending. It is a lot of ongoing hard work. Story 30. Mental illness or disability. Not many people, fortunately, but I have met enough people who have made my eyes roll into the back of my head. Story 31. Pregnancy. Having a child was the best thing that ever happened to me, but being pregnant was the worst. The idea of 9 months is a myth. It is closer to 40 weeks. Story 32. Owning a small business is challenging. After running my own for a short time, I realized that most small businesses do not generate consistent profits, and their owners often earn less than minimum wage. At best, you can sell the business and move on. At worst, you lose your life savings trying to make it work. It is a lot of work and risk just to be able to say you are a business owner. Story 33. Marriage. Most married couples I have known live a lie and are often unfaithful. In every job I have worked, married men slept with women who worked there or at least flirted frequently. Story 34. Starting a business is a big risk and often requires dedicating much of your life to achieve the results you want. Many people jump into that kind of venture without realizing what they must sacrifice. Story 35. Anyone who talks about a return to farming as a heroic, manly thing has never done it. At best, they are manipulating you. At worst, they are an idiot who pays other people to do it. Story 36. Hi. Many things that seem dreamy from the outside can be really tough in reality, and it's brave to acknowledge the harder side too. Story 37. A bit of an odd one here. Comas. My father was in a coma for a few weeks after a brain injury, and it devastated him. He had to relearn how to walk and talk, and it changed his personality for the worse. It ruined my family's life. Every time I see a movie hero in a coma for more than 2 months, immediately getting up and fighting off bad guys, I roll my eyes so far back it hurts. If you are thinking of putting a character in a coma for character development, don't. Story 38. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. Oh, I like my books to be in order by color. I'm a bit obsessive-compulsive. They have no idea how debilitating obsessive-compulsive disorder is or how incredibly time-consuming it can be. The hours of my life lost to being in an anxious state, with my thoughts trapped in a loop, obsessing over something and unable to escape it. I cannot hold a normal job or have a normal life. It is more than just turning switches on and off or liking things in order. Story 39. High-level bodybuilding. I feel like most people underestimate the amount of work and the mental toll bodybuilding takes on athletes at the highest level. It is not just the training, although athletes must train extremely hard, it is also the diet. In the weeks and months leading up to a show, shredding down to a single-digit body fat percentage and staying that way is brutal. There are terrible cravings, lack of energy and motivation, and many athletes develop body dysmorphia from hyperanalysis of their physiques. It is also the amount of anabolic steroids you need to use to compete at the highest levels. If you cannot tolerate the drugs, do not consider competitions like Mr. Olympia. Potential side effects include water retention and bloating, fatigue, sleep problems, mood swings, irritability, aggression, changes in sex drive, male pattern baldness, and severe skin problems such as acne. There is a well-known video of Larry Wheels deadlifting with blood running down his chest because acne sores burst under pressure. Male-specific effects include gynecomastia, testicular atrophy, erectile dysfunction, and reduced sperm count. Long-term effects include cardiovascular problems such as high blood pressure, abnormal cholesterol levels, heart attack, stroke, and early coronary heart disease, alongside liver and kidney damage. Because steroids make muscles very strong very quickly without strengthening ligaments to match, steroid users are more likely to tear something like a bicep. Mental side effects can include severe anxiety and worsening body image issues. When you stop using them, you may experience fatigue, loss of appetite, weight loss, reduced physical strength, and depression. If you cannot handle all that, or if you are not extremely lucky like Ronnie Coleman in avoiding many side effects, you have little chance of competing at a high level. Also remember that many athletes have exceptionally favorable genetics for muscle growth, which excludes the majority of people. Story 40. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is not a silly, quirky trait like saying, ah shucks, I forgot again, or being a little fidgety. It negatively affects my relationships and my day-to-day life. Story 41. The culture of a wife staying at home without a job would not work for me. I would go crazy. You have to have a great deal of trust to depend on another person. Being out of the workforce for many years will not look good on a resume, and it might be hard to get a job if the marriage ends. Story 42. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. I do not think people romanticize it exactly, but many people do not see it for what it really is: an insidious mental illness. This condition did not make me want to organize my books by color. It made me want to kill myself. Laughing out loud. Story 43. Having depressive episodes is not fun, romantic, or cool in any way. I have to admit the tendency to romanticize has decreased in recent years. At least that is how it seems to me. Story 44. Working on a fishing boat was my postgraduate adventure in Alaska. It was not as romantic as I had imagined. Looking back, it had its moments, but 59 seconds of every minute felt like pure hell. Story 45. Obsessive-compulsive disorder is often casually self-diagnosed as a sign of being organized, but in reality it is a debilitating, chronic, gut-wrenching, insistent, and never-ending terror. Story 46. In vitro fertilization is often thought to be just a few injections and poof, a baby. That is not the case. It involves weeks of medications, hormones, injections, and scans. Even when clinicians can retrieve eggs, not all can be fertilized. Of the eggs that are fertilized, only about half reach the embryo stage. Not all embryos will implant. Some fail to develop. Even when an embryo is transferred, the failure rate remains high, and you must wait 2 weeks to know whether implantation succeeded and you are pregnant. It is emotionally and physically difficult. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.